In Season 5 of Better Call Saul, Jimmy is continuing to practice law under his alias Saul Goodman. Meanwhile, Kim is beginning to feel disillusioned by her work with Mesa Verde, and when the bank wants her to forcefully evict a man named Acker from his home so they can build a new branch there, she enlists the help of Jimmy to stop Mesa Verde. Jimmy represents Acker against Mesa Verde and uses every backhanded scheme and con he can to sabotage Kim and Mesa Verde's case. Eventually, Jimmy and Kim discover that Mesa Verde's logo was stolen from a photographer and force the bank to drop their pursuit of Acker's property. Kim angers both Mesa Verde and her employers at Schweikert & Coakley and ultimately decides to quit to focus on her pro bono work. Kim and Jimmy then get married, allowing their conversations to be legally protected under spousal privilege. Meanwhile, Salamanca drug dealer Domingo, aka Crazy 8, is arrested. Nacho convinces Lalo to hire Jimmy as a lawyer to represent Domingo. Jimmy arranges for Domingo's release in exchange for becoming an informant for DEA agent Hank Schrader. Lalo uses this to his advantage, having Domingo expose the locations of Gus's dead drops. In retaliation, Mike, on Gus's orders, alerts the authorities to Lalo's involvement in Fred's death. Upon his arrest for murder, Lalo once again calls upon Jimmy for his legal assistance. Jimmy arranges for Lalo to be released on a $7 million bail. The only problem is Jimmy would have to pick up the money and deliver it himself. In exchange, Lalo offered to pay him $100,000. And so, against Kim's concerns, Jimmy heads out into the desert to pick up 2 bags filled with money. On his way back, Jimmy is confronted by armed gunmen who attempt to steal the money from him. Jimmy and the money are rescued by Mike, but when all of the vehicles are destroyed, Jimmy and Mike are forced to make their trek home on foot. Upon finally reaching civilization, Jimmy and Mike part ways. Jimmy posts Lalo's bail and returns home to Kim, seriously traumatized by the ordeal. Jimmy tells both Lalo and Kim that his car broke down, forcing him to walk home alone. This acts as a cover for his friendship with Mike and therefore his association with Gus. Kim discovers the truth when finding a bullet hole in Jimmy's coffee mug, and Lalo investigates Jimmy's car to similarly discover bullet holes. When Lalo arrives to confront Jimmy over his lies, Mike rushes to the scene with a sniper to protect his friend. But Mike wasn't needed, as Kim fearlessly stands up to Lalo, insisting that random passerbys could have shot up Jimmy's car after he abandoned it, then berates Lalo for not trusting Jimmy despite getting him out of jail for murder. Lalo accepts this explanation and leaves. Lalo retreats to his home in Mexico, bringing Nacho with him. Lalo introduces Nacho to Don Eladio, who approves of his business plans. While in Mexico, Gus calls on Nacho to assist in his plans to assassinate Lalo. Gus would send in a team of killers. Nacho just had to let them in. And so Nacho opens Lalo's gates to allow the assassins into the compound, then flees the scene. Lalo is able to fend off his attackers, killing all but one, then forces the survivor to inform Gus that Lalo had successfully been killed. As the season comes to a close, Kim suggests that she and Jimmy try to sabotage Howard's career in order to force the Sandpiper settlement. This would provide a very generous payout to them both, allowing them to focus on the legal defense work they felt called to. Jimmy is hesitant to the idea and begins to fear that his scheming conman ways had finally begun to corrupt the morals of Kim Wexler. Also, throughout the series of Better Call Saul, we catch glimpses into the future of Jimmy McGill and his life following the events of Breaking Bad. After the DEA begins looking into Saul Goodman and his involvement with drug kingpin Walter White, Jimmy hires a man named Ed to help make him disappear, giving him a new life as the manager of a Cinnabon in Omaha named Gene Takovic. Gene reflects on his glory days while living a secluded life without many connections, fearful that his past will come back to haunt him. His worst fears are realized when a taxi driver recognizes him as Saul Goodman. Gene considers once again having Ed disappear him, but instead resolves to handle the situation himself.